Today we're going to take a look at the basic control setup you need to have ready for the F-15E Strike Eagle.
Stingray is pound 6, you're cleared to engage.
Lead is rolling in, engaging south and north, left in, right out.
Alright guys, welcome aboard the F-15E Strike Eagle. We're going to take a look at the control setup. And these are just kind of the bare bones things that you need to have set up. As you know, this is the Combat Ready series. So we just want to jump in the aircraft and get ready to go. So we're not going to dive too deep into things, but we'll start here at our control stick and just cover some of the basics. Alright, pretty simple on the control stick. We'll start over here on the right side. We've got the trim switch, which of course we've got the 4-way trim, nose down, nose up, left wing, and right wing. You're definitely going to need this because on takeoff, when you've got the takeoff trim set, the nose is going to want to jump up on you. So almost immediately after takeoff, you're going to be putting the nose down just a little bit and bringing it back under control. Now next to it, you've got the castle switch, and this is how you're going to interact with your screens. So in a previous video, I talked about for your MPDs, your MPCD, how you can program them, and that's going to be a way to cycle through those, as well as taking control of things. So as you can see, we've got these lines right here, so it's indicating that I've got control of that screen, and you'll see more of that in future videos. Next to that, that funky red button right there, that is our pickle switch, so that's how we're going to drop bombs and fire our missiles. Below that is a very important switch. That's our auto acquisition switch, and it is a forward and aft, and then a Z-axis depress. And this is how you're going to interact with a lot of your systems. That's how you're going to zoom in on your targeting pod. You're going to change modes with your air-to-air radar. You're going to do some functions with your air-to-ground radar. So you definitely need that in a comfortable place because you're going to be playing with it quite a bit. All right, looking around on the side here, we've got this little pinky switch, and that's going to be for your nose wheel steering. Now, your nose wheel steering is always active when you're taxiing around, but when you press and hold that button, you're going to go into a high gain mode, and in the moment you release it, you'll come out of that. And then just forward of that, you've got that little paddle switch, and that is how you disengage your autopilot. Obviously, of course, in the front of your stick, you also have got the trigger to fire the gun. So not a whole lot to the stick, and we'll take a look over at the throttle. All right, so looking over at our throttle, it's a little bit harder to see some of these, and some of these are not actually moving in this pre-access build, so if you don't see stuff moving around, just understand. Some of them do, some of them don't. But we'll start here on the far end. It's kind of hard to see. You've got your antenna elevation control, which is just a dial, a wheel there. Additionally, on the far side of the throttle is the command dispenser switch, or your pinky switch, which is for command launching of your manual 1 and 2 dispenser for flares and chaff. To the right of that, we've got our left multifunction switch. Most notably, you're going to use that to fire your laser. Now, I've got that mapped actually to my thumb area right here on my Virpil control, just because it's kind of awkward for me to use that, but however you like it. Down here, you've got these finger lift detents, and this is, of course, for engine startup, and I don't really even have these mapped because I don't typically do engine starts. All right, here's your TDC, and of course, just like anything else, it's got a little mini stick type movement to it, but it also has a Z-axis press that you will be using quite a bit. That's how you're going to designate targets. It's how you're going to lock things up with your air-to-air radar, air-to-ground radar. So you definitely want to have that mapped. To the right of that is our right multifunction switch, the Coolie switch. This one does not, again, move in this current build. But this is going to be used for, most notably, IFF interrogations during air-to-air engagements. Here you've got your microphone switch. You've only got 2 radios in the aircraft, so forward and aft. Below that, you've got your speed brake. This will deploy the speed brake for as long as you're holding it. So I'm pushing it forward. The speed brake should be coming out. And then as soon as I stop, the brake is going to stop wherever it's at. So it's not one of these where you push it once and the thing comes all the way out and you pull it back and it comes all the way back in. So it's one thing you definitely got to listen for if you're new to messing with speed brakes. I kind of wish it could just pop it once and it would go back in, because sometimes if you don't hold it long enough, the speed brake won't go all the way in. And I've yet to find anything that indicates that the speed brake is deployed. Maybe it's there and I'm just not seeing it. All right, below that is the undesignate missile reject switch, and this is just a forward and aft. And then below that is our weapons mode. We'll push it forward. We're selecting our medium range missiles. We go aft. We're selecting our gun. We'll select it in the center, and we will get our sidewinders. So as you can see, not a whole lot of buttons. Like I said, you will be using the auto acquisition switch quite a bit, and the castle switch. We'll cover the back seat in a separate video because it's a little bit funky, and honestly, at this point, I haven't even dug into it that much, and I'd like to keep these videos small and bite-sized as possible. But I do want to mention just a few other things that I have mapped that might be helpful for you. All right, so most obvious is your flaps and landing gear, just having those easily accessible. But a couple other things that I like to have just handy are my lights. So I've got 2 rotary dials on my Virpil throttle, and I've got those set for my position and formation lights. Additionally, I use one of the rotary lights, the Z-axis press, to turn on and off my anti-collision light. The other one I would recommend that you have is for your nav FLIR. Have a way to at least turn it on and standby. So I've just got a toggle switch on my throttle at the base of it, and that's how I turn that on. Because if you're flying at night and you want to turn that on, instead of having to look down here at low level in the dark, turning that on, I just like to have an easy way to switch that on and off. Another thing I like to have mapped is the mode selector. So we've got these 4 buttons here: air-to-air, air-to-ground, nav, and instruments. I've got those set to 4 buttons on my Virpil throttle base, so I can rotate through. Now, using that castle switch, we can actually rotate through the air-to-ground and air-to-air modes just by tapping up on the castle switch. But still, it might be helpful for you, just depending on your setup, to have at least the nav and instrument set up somewhere else. That way you don't have to reach down here and tap those. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you, and I have this mapped in the front. It's kind of interesting that you can map certain things from the back seat in the front as if you have somebody with you. Is this right here, the command, the dispense, chaff and flare, or both. I actually have this set in the front seat, and there is a function for that, so that I've got a 4-way switch. I use the forward and aft to do the manual 1 and 2 dispense, but then I've got up and down. It won't do it because I'm sitting in the back seat, but if I was sitting in the front seat, this will move to chaff, both, or flare. And what's even better is up at the top right, it'll actually tell me that it's done that, so that I don't lose track of maybe where I'm at, so I can just flip that switch and see that I'm set to both or chaff or flare. The very last thing I do want to show you that I've got personally mapped separate is the opening and closing of the fuel door for doing air-to-air refuel, because nothing I hate worse than trying to look down and mess with this at the last second or something like that, or if I get ready to hook up and realize I forgot to open the door. So just got that set up, and what's great is up here at the top right, or top left, it'll tell you that it's ready, so that you know that you've done it. And also when you disconnect, so if you've accidentally disconnected or whatever, it'll let you know and just give you another indication that you're actually not hooked up and not taking fuel. Anyhow, not a whole lot to cover. Hopefully this was a little bit helpful, get you guys set up early for this eventual release, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys flying around. We'll see you in a bit.